Hello, I am your host, Tracy Otsuka. Thank you so much for joining me here for another episode of ADHD for Smartass Women. You know, my purpose is to show you who you are and then inspire you to be it. And in the thousands of ADHD women that I've had the privilege of meeting, I've never met a one that wasn't truly brilliant at something, not one. So, of course, I am just delighted to introduce you to Rebecca Barrera. Rebecca Barrera earned her Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of South Carolina in 2019 and now works as a pre-op nurse at the Medical University of South Carolina in downtown Charleston. In her role, she helps patients prepare for surgery with incredible care, professionalism, and empathy. Rebecca lives in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, with her boyfriend Jake, their black lab Bo, where she loves spending time with her friends and family. Now, I invited Rebecca to join us after she sent me an email saying this: I am not an influencer and do not have a background in being a book author or coach. So I'm not sure that I meet the proper criteria that your application implied, but I wanted to share my email just in case. And of course, I thought, like hell you're not. You're better than all of that. Nurses are literally our true heroes, especially in a time when science and expertise are often undervalued. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. I also know that so many women with ADHD are drawn to nursing, and it makes perfect sense, right? Nursing offers freedom. You're typically not tied to a desk. There's variety in a fast paced environment where no 2 days are typically alike. Nurses have to think on their feet, they solve problems creatively, and perhaps most importantly, they need to be able to connect with patients on a deeply empathetic level. They advocate, build trust, and bring meaning to their work, which is exactly what many ADHD women seek in a career. Now, Rebecca, she embodies all of this, and I can't wait for her to share her ADHD journey with us. Welcome, Rebecca. Did I get all of that right?
Yes, thank you. I loved all of that and how you put it. It's very sweet.
I know you have a particularly colorful diagnosis story. And since we always start there, would you be willing to share it with us? And you can either, I don't know, if you prefer to just talk, or I can ask you questions as we go along, whatever's easier for your brain.
Yeah, I can talk and then you can ask questions if you feel like you need to intervene.
Sounds great.
So I um, lived in Maine years and years ago. I've been in Charleston since I was 5. And when we were in Maine, my mom had 4 kids under the age of 7. My dad traveled all the time for work. So it was a one-man deal, and my teachers in kindergarten were saying that I wasn't learning and there was nothing they basically could do, that it was just kind of an epic fail.
Didn't one of them actually say, your kindergarten teacher, that you were intellectually disabled, but they used the R word?
Yes. Maybe they didn't say that, but I think that's what my mom put it down. What my mom got from it was the R word. Yeah, so basically, like, no hope. Like, your child's not going to succeed, and this is what it is. There you have it. But we actually, in that year, my dad got a promotion in Charleston. So we moved down here and started a different school. And one of my teachers, which I'll never forget her, Stacia Thacker, was my kindergarten teacher. And she just was such an influential reason for my success, because she had faith and believe, like, told my parents, yeah, I agree. There's something going on, but there's potential. She's not, or the R word. So through multiple doctors and seeing different people and her help, I would go to her like every weekend on Saturday, I remember. They held me back in kindergarten, but we got the diagnosis from a pediatrician who, suggested medicine, which my parents were very against.
Rebecca, can you tell me what year was that?
That was in 2002.
Okay. So they did, however, catch ADHD in a girl.
Yes.
Were you the typical ADHD in terms of like the traditional boy type, or were you more in your head inattentive?
So my mom always said how she described it was I was hyperactive emotionally. So I wasn't like the typical running around the playground crazy. I mean, I was too, to a certain extent. Like I was
Uh-huh.
talkative and I loved to be the center of attention and yada yada. But it wasn't that I was crazy running around. It was that I couldn't focus, which I think from what I've learned is too overstimulated. Not really that you can't focus, and just hyperactive emotionally in my thoughts and everything else.
So it sounds like you were actually combined type, but you had enough of
Yes.
the boy characteristics that in 2002 they were like, you know what, this looks like ADHD.
I don't know if it was that they caught on to that because I don't think my teachers saw the hyperactive boy side of it. I
Okay.
think they just saw simply I was not learning. I couldn't read was the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could not read. I couldn't get up to the levels. And my mom was the one who did all this research and I think she, went brought up to doctors.
Uh-huh.
I think it could be ADHD and let's go into this diagnosis. And so then from there on, and then the teacher, Stacia Thacker, who was like, you're right. I think it's more of a learning disability, which comes with ADHD sometimes, was thought with my parents, which helped it all kind of come together and get the diagnosis to get the medication.
But you had said your parents were really against medication, right?
Yes.
So somehow something happened between then and you taking medication.
So my grandfather, who was a doctor, an OBGYN up in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
always, promoted the less medication, the better. And both my grandmothers were nurses on my mother's side and my father's. So very health educated and all of that. And my parents agreed, we don't want to give a 5-year-old medicine. And my mom, I remember she was like, let's just try medicine. When the doctor suggested the medication and we were doing the tutoring on Saturdays, she was like, okay, you know what? I'm open. I'm open to it because I'm not going to not try something when we just don't know.
Good for your mom.
Yes, I mean, she was my biggest advocate. I'll say it for forever. But and my dad always, gives her he's like, if it wasn't for her, you would not be how successful you are. We went on medication and it was a night and day difference.
They put you on a stimulant?
Yeah, so they put me on Adderall, which
Mm-hmm.
for a week I threw up every day. It did
Oh
not work.
gosh.
Yeah, it was really bad. I think it was Concerta that I ended up going on, or methylphenidate. I can't remember because it's all changed so much too. I mean, not too much. My mom was like, oh my gosh, or both my parents and everyone and my teachers were like, she's actually learning, like, she's doing well. Like, it was just, I mean, mind blowing.
It was like that switch.
Yes. But then my mom would kind of feel guilty because she was like, you weren't my Rebecca anymore. Like, you were just kind of a
The
zombie.
robot who got work
Right.
done.
So, there was challenges but we figured it out and we went through 3rd grade. So I wouldn't take it on the weekends. And it's funny though, because I remember like when I would be playing with my sister and her friends would come over, she was 2 years older than I was. And they would always be like, if it was like around bedtime, I would take another medication. I think it was clonidine.
For the emotional.
Yes, that turned you kind of off. And
Uh-huh.
I remember them begging, like my parents, don't give Rebecca her medication. We want her to stay up and play. But then there would be days where I would be crazy, annoying them, and they'd be like, Mom, give Becca her medication. A battle with like, okay, we just want a medium, but medication is just so extreme.
So with the emotional impulsivity, it sounds like it wasn't necessarily negative emotion. It could be, but it was also like you were the clown, you were on, you were right.
Yes,
That's why
yes.
your sister is like,
Happy, go
yeah, you're
lucky,
fun.
yes. So yeah, and then after 3rd grade, I went off medication because, my parents wanted to try and see.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we went out to like a celebratory dinner, like when I went out for my medication. And I don't think it was in an intent to make me feel like bad that, you have to take a medication.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's sometimes, yeah. I could get on a different topic of medication. But so then 3rd grade, we did that. 4th grade, I struggled a little bit. 5th grade, I did just fine.
Were you on medication at this point again?
No,
No.
no.
So, do you think, because I swear I have this theory, I've seen it happen so many times, that being on the medication, even for that short period of time, it kind of taught you what you needed to do. And so your brain changed, it rewired itself.
100%. Well, and it
Mm,
showed me, and again, in kindergarten, you don't really know what's going on. So I didn't know teachers were saying, she's not
right.
learning. But I think when my parents were always so happy, like with, oh my God, you're doing so well. And that reinforcement was so like an accomplishment for me. So I felt like good about it. And yeah, you're
Yes.
right. I knew what I needed to do. I knew, okay, I just have to try a little bit harder. Fourth grade, you still don't really get it. But I remember in fifth grade, like praying to God, like, please help me do well this year. I really want to do well in school. And I did amazing that year. It was crazy. And then I went fifth grade, or yeah, sixth grade, did okay. And then I remember seventh grade, I
Mm,
was having a hard time in math. And I
yeah.
went to my mom and I said, I think I may need a little help. So I went back on the medication, but I hated taking it. I hated taking it. It made me not the same person. I remember the days I didn't take it, like all my friends in school, just we had the best days. I was so much more fun, but I was also getting in trouble. Yeah. But the teachers were, you're talking. So then in high school, I was able to kind of rein it in more to where I could, okay, you're not getting in trouble, but I would on and off take it. I was able to like sit in a chair and listen. Not really, because I really wasn't, because I was thinking 1,000 things in my head, but I could cooperate
Right.
better. So I would really only take medication on like test days,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess maybe I would take it more so than not. But I remember like on Fridays, I would be like, I'm not going to take it. Or on a day
Mm,
that I felt like wasn't that important, I'd be like, I'm
right.
just going to let it go today. And then on the weekends and in summer, I never took it.
So, if I saw you as a child, like what would what were you like? It sounds like you were fun.
Yeah, I definitely had high energy. I was very curious. My mom said I would stare at people and just stare them down. And she would be like, oh my God, like, stop. But I just was genuinely curious. And I asked a lot of questions. I always asked a lot of questions in school.
Yeah, and that's the mark of someone who's intellectually disabled. Hello. Literally, our school system wants kids who don't ask questions. And that means you're smarter than the kids who are constantly asking those second and third level questions.
You should always question. But a lot of teachers were not like, they thought that they told my parents that showed that I really wanted to do good. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, our school systems are just not, they're neurotypical, scared.
exactly. Okay,
um,
so you were fun, you were curious. It sounds like you talked a lot.
I talked a lot.
It sounds like you were also charming. Well, I mean, if your older sister is saying, "Please come with us because you're the life of the party."
Maybe she wasn't saying that. I think they just wanted a third person to boss around when they played house. But no, yes, we did. Me and my dad always said, you and your sister when you were little were best friends. We played teacher, we played school. All up until we got made fun of by my older brother. We're brothers. Be like, y'all are too old to be playing school still.
Oh my gosh, why would that be? Did your sister become a teacher?
She did. She's a teacher, second grade teacher.
And she understands. So did she have any of these issues at all?
No, not at all. I have to say, my brothers definitely got the smarts. They are, I think, smarter than both of us girls, but they just got blessed that gift. My sister did just average in school. She was never the problem child, though. My parents went through all their phases with my oldest brother, me, and my youngest brother, but Jill just kind of went through it. But she was an average student, but never challenges with ADHD or anything.
Hopefully, though, because of your experiences, she's one of those great teachers who gets it.
Yes, for sure.
As far as a response back from your brothers are smarter than you guys, I would ask, what's smart?
They tested well.
Yeah.
They did really well. Yep. And my oldest brother actually, I 100%. He never got diagnosed officially, but he definitely has ADHD. that's the thing is, I loved hearing on one of your podcasts about most ADHD people have a high IQ, but you would
Yeah.
never guess because we just learn differently or do life differently.
Well, the thing about IQ, though, is so we're at least average, but usually above average. But the thing about IQ is if you struggle in one area, like visual spatial processing, right, your score is going to go way down. So what happens is you may have a low IQ score, but be one of the most brilliant people ever.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you think that parents and teachers need to know about creating an environment where ADHD kids can thrive? And I guess I should say more than ADHD kids, just kids in general, because so many kids haven't been diagnosed, right? So I guess probably starting out with making sure that all teachers have an understanding of what neurodivergence looks like, whether you're talking about a learning difference or ADHD, autism, whatever.
Yeah, well, I think teachers need to, and again, I've never gone through teaching school or education to be a teacher, but I think like they need to know more about ADHD and really what it is,
Hmm.
because and all the other things and learning disabilities, because again, it always goes back to what everyone thinks ADHD is from a very minuscule view is hyperactivity and inattention. And there's so much more to ADHD. It's not that you just can't focus.
Yeah.
Your brain is wired so differently. And I think parents too. I think because I grew up always thinking, until my adult years, until really after I graduated college, it was just a learning disability. That was what ADHD meant to me.
Oh,
Was it was a learning disability. Now it's like, oh my gosh, this is why you ruminate. This is why you're a perfectionist. This is why you think and feel so deeply, and it causes you emotional turmoil, and you need to take a few steps back and just be more aware and understand yourself better. And this, it's really understanding it and making people more knowledgeable because they're educating people. I mean, I hear teachers all the time say, or people say that teachers are like, oh, they're not behaving. So yeah, put them on medication. And it's like, no. And there's so much other things you can try. I feel bad for my parents back in the day because it's so much more known now and understood. And back then it wasn't, and there wasn't a lot of resources.
you know the thing about it though, Becca, is that there are studies that show. So your parents did your mom, brilliant. She did the right thing because there are studies that show that there is a 50%, like they're always so worried about, oh, addiction and what's this going to lead to? And it's the gateway, to whatever. I don't want to say gateway drug, but that's what they say. And the truth of the matter is, studies show that there is a 50% less chance of addiction if you medicate before the age of 13. And because then you're not self medicating afterwards because you understand how your brain works. And it's exactly what you said that you figured out, oh, well, this is how my brain works. And you figured that out on medication, but then you could get off of that, off of the medication because it had rewired your brain.
Yes. Yeah, you see the potential. And I too, today I still take medication.
Hmm.
But yeah, there are people that abuse it all the time. And it is because I think finally they get diagnosed at a later age and they're like, oh my gosh, I can actually be good. I can do things.
And then I would say, is that even abusing it, right? If you can see that it is making a really big difference in your life, why wouldn't you take it?
Right, not abuse. I guess I mean abusing it when they take too much. When they
Mm.
keep, so when some people do get to that point. But again, I think that's because they probably started it too late and other things probably too. But
Well, and also understanding that there's so much beyond medication, right? Medication is a part of it. But all the other things that you were talking about, that sounded more like mindset and mindfulness and, breath work and all of that. So, yeah, that whole what's smart thing and there's 9 to 11 different types of intelligence and what is the kind of intelligence that actually helps you really move forward in life. I would say it's emotional intelligence first because we've all been around people who are friggin' brilliant and nobody wants to be around them, right?
oh, for sure, I know. My dad could say that all day. He's like, I interview somebody who is, went to Harvard and all the things. And he's like, no way could you do this job. And he's in sales. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so we know what you were like as a kid. You get yourself through high school. What were your grades like at the end of high school? And were you ambitious? Were you thinking college is for me? Sounds like you come from the kind of family where that's not really an option. You just go to college.
Well, yes, college, yeah, it wasn't an option. I was going to go to college. And I don't think that my parents wouldn't have been supportive if I said, something different, but it was just what I grew up in. My mom actually didn't go to college, but anyway, so my two older siblings went to University of South
And look how
Carolina.
smart your mother is.
Let's see, so I applied to a few different colleges. Let me backtrack. ACT and SAT. And in high school too, my grades were A's and B's, mostly A's. I mean, but I tried so hard. I mean, I would study and study. And I remember going to school and being like, people would be like, "Oh yeah, I didn't do anything for this test." And I always felt weird because I'm like, why am I in high school and I'm having to study and nobody else is?
Yeah.
But I wanted to do good, and I think that comes in with like my perfectionism too of ADHD, and took the ACT 3 times, did horrible. I remember, so my youngest brother is a year below me, so we were in high school together, and he was taking his SAT for the first time, and I was taking it for the fourth time. And I remember he got a 1300 on his first time, and I got below 1,000.
Is the highest 14 or 1350?
The highest is 14.
Okay. Had he studied for it? Had he taken any
No,
one of those trainings? Just cold.
nothing. Cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so defeated by that because I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Why does he just get a 1300 and I'm taking it for the fourth time? My parents paid so much money to go to one of these SET
Yeah.
things, and I still scored below 1,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, ACT scored not well.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, it's just because, again, like the reading and that, and I wasn't having enough time. My parents went back again to the school to get an IEP plan just so they could see if I could get extra time on testing. And then they went and got me a second ADHD diagnosis because mine wasn't since kindergarten. And so I guess to send it to the board,
Yes.
the test boards, you had to do all the things. So I retested, did a whole week of testing, got back the diagnosis. We sent it into the boards. They allowed me extra time on the ACT. My score changed drastically, and that's what got me into Carolina. If I didn't have extra time on that test, I would have never scored high enough.
Can I ask you something, Rebecca? A couple times now you've talked about reading. Were you ever tested for dyslexia? Do you think that you might have dyslexia? I mean, there's all different kinds of dyslexia. So it doesn't mean you can't read. Because it's more difficult, you're much slower in reading. You choose not to. Like, I'm curious, do you read books or do you tend to do audiobooks?
I do audio. I do read some. You know what it is for me is that I have to reread. I have to go back. I have to because I read and then I'm like, wait, what did you just read? You're saying it's more of just like because I'm overstimulated.
Yep. And that's me too. I was sure my son was diagnosed with dyslexia. And so I thought, oh, that's my issue. That's why I struggled to write and organize my thoughts. And so I got tested and they're like, no. So I think that's what it is too. But I'm curious if for you, there's some other learning challenge because you know what they tend to, you're diagnosed with ADHD and that's all they see. So that's,
Well, the full extent of testing that
mhm.
this doctor did in high school, what it came out with was ADHD and oppositional.
Really? Oppositional defiant disorder?
Yeah, that was in there, but I don't know if that was taken from the records for my kindergarten diagnosis. I don't
That
really
is
remember.
hilarious, actually. So that's what was going on too, where you just weren't doing what you were told because you were probably asking why.
Right, because I don't want to do it from A, B, C. I want to do it from A to Q.
And maybe that's how your brain works better and that's how you learn. Oh, that's hilarious, especially for a girl.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing that on records and being like, Mom, Dad, what does this mean? And they, they were kind of weird about it. They were like, oh, nothing. And I just think sometimes they didn't want me to get so caught up in like thinking that I was
Yeah, well, she's going to go to prison. She has oppositional defiant disorder.
right. Because yeah, I know now as a nurse, you look it up and it's like I have friends who are lawyers and they're like, yeah, I have a kid and I'm
Hmm.
dealing with the custody and they're oppositional defiant. And I'm like, that was me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the trauma, right? Of people not believing what you're saying and thinking that it's a character or a moral flaw rather than, no, my brain just doesn't work that way. Yeah. And you had your parents. It sounds like you came from a really strong family. But if you don't have that, it's easy to see why you would get so frustrated. And it's like, well, F that.
Oh my God, yes. I know. I can't. I mean, I'm so thankful. And it seems like you did too. You came from a very strong family and we had support.
Okay. So tell us what happened. You decide to go to college, you get in. Were you planning on going to nursing school or getting a degree in nursing?
Yes. So I applied for the nursing to get into nursing school. And then at Carolina, they do it where you do your freshman and your sophomore year of prereqs. And then you find out if you get into what's called upper division December of your sophomore year, at which you start your junior year. And so it's a very like the program is there's not a lot of flexibility. So like the prereqs I took, if I didn't get into the nursing program, I probably would have spent longer at Carolina because
Ah.
you couldn't really they were all prereqs for nursing. So they always said like have a backup plan. So I applied to some smaller universities within University of South Carolina, and then because you had to have like a 3.7 GPA, it was really tough. But I ended up getting in.
How did you have a 3.7 GPA? I mean, I could have never gotten a degree in nursing ever. It is so you must have an interest.
Yes, and that's the thing. And my mom always says too, like when I'm interested in something, it's a whole different ballgame. It's like I can pay attention. Did I sometimes in class like want to talk to my friends and I would, and then I would go to the library and be like, okay, I would sit there and like this sounds so weird, but I enjoyed studying. Like
Mhm.
not that I even no, I hated it, but I enjoyed it. And then like I remember taking tests and it was like a challenge. As much as I felt like I missed out sometimes on like during the like I mean I still had such a great social life in college. I was in a sorority and I was involved and had a great group of friends. Yeah, I was in the library like Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday and Sunday. And I remember my dad used to he always still makes fun of me today, and my sister. Whenever I would answer the phone, I'd be like, shh, I'm in the library. In college, when he would call me from home. So they always,
So tell me, what was interesting about nursing and what you were studying?
I thought science and medicine was so fascinating. And it's funny because, people I feel like when they get asked, why did you choose nursing? Why are you a nurse? And everyone's normal or classic answer is to be like, because I love to help people. And it's not that I don't, and I love to, I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm in this career, but like,
Hmm.
I just, even since high school, we got to choose like a certain area that we did a special extracurricular class, whatever you call it. So I did health sciences in high school. And that's when I knew, okay, like I'll do something in medicine. But yeah, I just found it so fascinating. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to understand it. And so, yeah, that's where I got to that.
There was something about, there's a balance there. And there was something about nursing and what you were studying and learning that was really interesting to you because it is not easy to get a 3.7 in those kinds of classes. Again, I could never do it because I have no interest.
It was so hard.
And it's kind of criminal. Like we need nurses so desperately, but they make it so difficult to get through the program. And then ultimately, I always question, okay, the nurses that can do it, of course not you, but the nurses that can do it simply because that they're just so good at school versus those people who are so good with people, right? And you need you need the knowledge, but you also need the other part. And sometimes I think the other part may take precedence.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I didn't learn do today and that I learned was from experience, was from being in the field of nursing. I mean, are you kidding me? The questions from the nursing boards, I don't remember. I couldn't tell you how to answer them if I tried. Just because you can't get the grades or perform well with tests and all of that doesn't mean you can't be this great nurse. And that brings me back to when the whole ACT thing. I don't know if I mentioned that they thought I was cheating when my score went up.
Oh my gosh, really?
So the boards, it was this whole thing. So after my score went up
Oh,
drastically,
Becca.
yeah, so I didn't get into Carolina until late, like April. Like all my friends had already gotten in. They were still, the school was just, saying we're still processing. We're trying to figure this out. So yeah, it was the school that thought I cheated. My dad called like every week and was like, what is going on? We need, like, she did not cheat. We've sent you records. She just had extra time. We had to go through all this whole thing. I kind of like, I'm so happy that we proved Carolina wrong. I was like, I got into nursing. You guys could have taken my lower score. And what did I do? I worked hard and I'm a nurse. And you guys haven't, yeah. So an alumni
So don't do
that
that to anyone else.
you almost didn't let in your program because my SAT score.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. And so finally when you're able to get what you need to show your knowledge, then oh my gosh, you must be cheating.
Right.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
That kind of makes me sick. Okay, so you get through nursing school then, right? Is that what you call it, nursing school? Because you have to go to college and then you have something else after that, right?
So now you can do a 4-year bachelor's degree just within, so it was my 4-year undergrad. And that's where they kind of had the upper division. And then the upper 2 years, junior and senior year, were clinicals. But a lot of people will do 4 years of college undergrad and then do a 2-year fast track. So you can do
Okay,
it different ways.
which doesn't sound like a fast track.
Right. No, exactly. So I'm glad I just did it and got it out of the way.
So you actually do really well in school, and then you become a nurse. Is it better than school? Because it sounds like you liked school. Or tell us about it. How long have you been a nurse? 2 years now?
5.5. No, I do love what I do. And it's funny how you brought up earlier that it's not a desk job. We
Mm.
don't like to sit. It is freedom. My nursing job is probably one of the best ones you can get because it's no weekends, no nights, no holidays, Monday through Friday.
You must be good to already be there.
And I wouldn't say that, but I think I got very lucky.
You make your own luck. I don't believe in luck, Becca.
I work with the best people, and
What do you love? Why is this the perfect job for your brain? I mean, you said a few things, but
I think I could do different things too. Like I think some days I do come home and I'm like, oh, maybe I should switch careers. Maybe I should do an organizing business. Maybe, I think everyone has those days, but because some days are hard, some days suck. But it's like the moments that I genuinely like have good conversations with patients. Because there are some days where I'm like, okay, I did all my things. I asked all my questions. I put your IV in, pre-meds. All right, you're ready to go. I don't want to talk to you until you go back to surgery. But then there are people that you genuinely like have a connection with, and you walk their family member down to the waiting room when the patient goes back to surgery, and
yeah.
they're like, "Oh my God, like you made this experience so much easier," and like they were terrified. This is their first surgery, and like the things that people say to you. I mean, I've cried like secretly multiple times after holding it in, talking to family members and being like, all right, take care. And then walking back down the hall to my unit and being like, oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Every day it sounds like you do feel like you are making a difference. Like your existence matters.
Yes, for sure. Even though it's not like these nurses who I give so much credit to who are working endlessly on floors with really, really sick patients, I do have to say, I have mostly elective surgeries. I see a lot less bad
It usually turns out well.
because I couldn't do the bad. I mean, I had a patient come in that was like 18-year-old that tried to kill himself by lighting his car, doing oil over his car, lighting himself up on fire. And he comes in and came in for a plastic surgery to do something with, like, those days. I'm like, I go home and I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't get out of my head. I ruminate and ruminate because I'm like, oh my God, his life now, like, I mean, that sounds so bad, but his whole life is ruined now forever. He's 80% burned, 90% burned. Anyways, that was really dark.
No, no, no. I mean, it's what you see. Thankfully, you don't have to see this all the
Right.
time,
Not
right?
often.
You have a really demanding, high pressure job. So, how do you manage your ADHD symptoms when you're there? Or is the job such a good fit that you almost don't have to, that you can use those? And I think of symptoms, it's negative, right? But you can use those traits to really shine in what you do.
So I definitely have to manage them and be, because, I have to be serious and chart, and I get like so distracted easily, and again overstimulated because, like, our nurses station, it's a very tiny unit, and sometimes I just have to like leave and go take a walk around the hall outside because I'm like, this is, I can't even chart right now because you guys are over here talking, this is happening. And so I definitely have to cope and manage, and I take medicine usually when I work, which definitely helps because when I'm not on it, my coworkers are like, oh my God, but they're like, we love you when you're not on it, but oh my gosh. You're like, you talk 1,000 miles a minute. And yeah, so I'm a better worker when I'm on it because I'm focused and I want to get the job done.
So, what you said when you were younger, the medication changed your personality. Do you feel like the medication still does that? And why did it bother you before, but it doesn't bother you now if it does? Change it.
So I do think that my body is way more tolerates it better, I guess, as an adult. And I've come so acclimated to it that yes, it makes me different, but not in a bad way. It's not like even in college when I would take it on a Saturday because I knew I wanted to study before going out that night, my friends would be like, who lived with me would be like, no, Becca, don't take it yet. Don't take it. Like, just study tomorrow.
We want crazy Becca.
Yeah, yeah, literally crazy Becca. But
Crazy fun, not crazy, crazy.
but now the dose that I'm on and what we've figured out, it works great. So I eat on it still. I'm happy on it. I'm just chill, focused, and able to not let control my emotions, my impulsivity, all of it. So it works better for everyone in the long run.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're happy and it's working for you and you've been able to, it sounds like you've just really been able to adjust it too and figure out what serves you and what doesn't. So was the medication before making you anxious? Is that what was going on?
I don't know. It just was not when I was younger, and I don't know if it again was the dosage or what, but maybe it was because like I was in school and I was like, okay, like because at work you're not like sitting there like listening to a lecture or like writing in a book. You're still moving and grooving, and so it's just different. Because I think that like with the medication now, I could still sit there and I would be quiet listening to something. Whereas like I know it's kind of like allowed and it's free at work to not, you don't have to. So I figured out a way, and I think again tolerance to like to be able to do both.
Maybe it was that oppositional part
Yeah.
too, right? And so much of it is what we want. And so if you didn't want that because you felt kind of like you were being put in a cage because that's what the adults wanted, I could see that of course it's not going to work because you don't want it to work versus now you're choosing it.
Yes.
So, Becca, for young women just starting out with an ADHD diagnosis, what is one piece of advice that you'd give them about navigating life and finding their strengths?
So I would say, like I said earlier, to me, like growing up, I put ADHD in one category, and it was because I struggled to learn. And I put it as so much more. And never forget my oldest brother, always saying that mom made such a big deal about my ADHD diagnosis. And he was like, she's fine, like you don't have to make it this big thing. But my mom made it that way because she knew that there wasn't resources or the things that I needed in a neurotypical setting. And so she wanted just to make sure that I knew that I was capable of all the things. But what my brother taught me from the way he saw it, which is I think my advice to every ADHDer, is that you cannot let your shortcomings and your failures from your weaknesses from the bad ADHD traits, because we know there's great ones, define you or make you feel like you're not capable, that you cannot victimize yourself. You cannot feel bad for yourself or make excuses. You have to let it show you or teach you every day coping skills. There's ways to manage it, just being self-aware, recognizing, okay, like maybe that's why I did this because it was my ADHD, but how do I do better the next day? And embrace the traits like my deep thinking, and because that can turn deep, my overthinking can make me be so like throw me into emotional turmoil, but then it also brings so much joy in my life because people always say like you're compassionate and you're the most thoughtful person. So you just have to use your traits to the best of what they should be used for, and then try to, when you have those days where you're like, all right, when you feel too deeply in the wrong way, just rein it in and be aware, recognize. I called my dad earlier today about the podcast, and I said, Dad, what do you think some of my ADHD traits are that have made me successful? And he said determination, humility. Humility, I laughed to myself because I'm like, us ADHDers, I love the center of attention. I love to be like, sometimes I'm like, oh, am I really humble all the time? And I think he meant it in a way of just being able to be aware and, again, recognize your faults and your flaws and grow from them and learn.
I think what you also said too, which is the thing that I kind of, are constantly pushing forward is, yeah, we have weaknesses, but in every one of those weaknesses, there is an opposing strength. Kind of like you were saying, yeah, I overthink, but that's exactly what's responsible for my deep empathy. Okay, so Becca, what is your number one ADHD workaround?
I would say I love my daily walks at work. During lunch, I walk by myself and listen to music.
Why?
It just gets me out of that crazy overstimulated environment for 30 minutes and good sleep. It's a game changer. My days are so much better when I get good sleep.
And so is the key to get in bed earlier rather than get up earlier, or what do you think?
So I get up at 4:45 because I work at 5:30. I know it
Oh my
sucks.
gosh. Is that hard for you?
Yes, and it's been 5 years, and it will never get easy for me. But I do it. It's hard because my boyfriend, he gets up, his work ends at 5. My work ends at, well, I used to work 5/8, and so I would do 5:30 to 2.
Mm.
And I realized finally I just got it switched because I was like, it's not working for me because I get off way too early, and then I'm ready to go to bed. I'm ready to eat dinner at 4, ready to go, and so with my boyfriend's schedule, I now work 4:10s.
Wait, what does 410 mean?
Sorry, 4:10s is I work 4 days a week, 10 hours,
And so when do you start?
5:30 to 4.
Oh, I mean, if you start that early, 4, I mean, that's a perfect time, right?
Yeah, it's great, but I still need to go to bed early because I get up so early.
What time do you have to get in bed by?
I try to get in bed by 8:30,
Okay.
8:30, and be
Okay.
asleep by 9:30. But when you have a boyfriend who gets off at whatever time and wants to eat at 7:30, it's like it's hard. So but we've worked through it. So we're getting better. And I'm like, because that's my time to spend with him too, is at the end of the day. And I want to stay up and watch a movie with him, but I'm like, I have to go to bed.
Yeah. No, and to put that's especially difficult because we already usually don't want to go to bed, right? We just want the day to keep going. And then you've got a partner who wants to stay up. And so, yeah, that's
It's so funny as I do never want to go to bed. I'm like, but I do want to go to bed because I know it's gonna make
yes.
me so much better. But I'm like, okay, can we just skip bed and it be the next day? I just want to keep going. Like I'm ready for the next day.
I know. I know. Um, okay. So, Rebecca, if people want to find out more about you or they want to reach out to you, can they?
Yes.
And what is the best way?
I'm on Instagram. It is BexB1229.
The LinkedIn, it's B Barrera. So BBARRERA 1229. We will have both of those links in the show notes.
Okay.
Rebecca, thank you so much for reaching out and then spending time with us here today. It was a delight to get to know you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So that's what I have for you for this week. If you like this episode with Rebecca, please let us know by leaving a review. Our goal is to change the conversation around ADHD, helping as many women as we possibly can learn how their ADHD brains work so that they too may discover their amazing strengths. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you here next week.